A reminder, this meeting is recorded, and we operate on an agenda basis. Anyone having any business to bring before the committee would need to submit a week in advance to be included on the agenda. Everybody had a chance to review last month's meeting minutes? Any additions or corrections? Anybody see? Dave, you're pretty hawk-eyed on that.
Nope, I was okay with them.
Okay. If so, do I have a motion for acceptance?
So moved.
Second?
Sure.
Okay, all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Dave made the motion and Kevin second. Okay, Abigail, she's moving on. Price could not make it this evening, but he did send me an email with some updates from the county. Do you want a copy of it, Michelle, or?
Not unless I absolutely
No,
need it
okay.
after you tell me what's in it.
Okay, I'll just review the 2022 spring amendment to the 2019 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan approved by the MDE on October the 7th. The full amendment is on the department's webpage. The 2022 fall amendment to the 2019 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. Board of County Commissioners, public hearing was held January the 12th. Discussion and decision January the 26th. It was forwarded to MDE for final approval on February the 3rd. The Planning Department is not processing a 2023 spring amendment, as the goal is to complete the 2022 triennial update by late spring. Amendment procedures and application link in the process of updating for Water Sewer Master Plan amendments process and application. Reminder, triennial update to the 2019 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. Planning is processing the triennial update. Municipal water sewer chapters and maps were distributed to municipal staff for review and updates. Please contact Price Wagner with questions pertaining to updates to the water sewer chapters and maps. February, March, and April planning zoning meetings. Planning will request consistency with comprehensive plans. Was that something we submitted, or Dave?
I believe we have input into
Because
that or
Gary-
review it, but
Because Gary
Yeah.
would have
Yeah,
taken care
I
of it.
think it's a relatively pro forma.
Yeah, because
nobody's doing anything that isn't
Uh,
compliant.
yeah. The Transportation Master Plan, the Planning Commission has been reviewing draft chapters at the regular scheduled meetings and will continue to do so over the next several months. During February and March, the review will focus on planned major streets, including those discussed with town staff last year. Annual report, planning will be completed, will be compiling information for the 2022 annual report due to the Maryland Department of Planning by July 1st. Planning is requesting Planning Commission approval information and supporting data with certification letters are submitted planning by municipal staff by March 17th, which I think that's what this letter is here. So
I think it is, but I'm gonna put my hand up here. Because I reviewed what was included, the stuff that came from Abigail, and there's a mistake. It's a really minor mistake. I was just gonna tell Price about it, but he's not here. It's, one of the questions is, were there text amendments? And the answer on here says no, but we had that very minor text amendment for the sign. So no should be yes. And I'm more than happy to call whoever is doing that, but I'm candidly not sure. Did that come from here? Did that come from there? Did that come from Abigail, who is sought greener pastures? I don't know what.
I think we filled out that
Okay.
form, probably may have filled out. The
Okay.
form with the yeses and the nos. That
Yeah, that one.
Yes.
But I caught it, and it's a small thing, but we got plenty of time to change it, I would think.
Was that under amendments to the zoning map?
Where it says zoning maps or text amendments, let me find it. Pages do not seem to be numbered, but it is question number 3. Were there any text
Oh,
amendments?
okay, I see that, okay.
And there were. So, I don't have that off the top of my head when it was adopted, and it's not a resolution, it was done by ordinance. I can get that information to whoever I should get it to,
Now, since the letter hasn't been submitted, has this information form been submitted yet?
I
Was it something?
don't know.
I mean, is it something that we will need to amend this report?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has been submitted and therefore needs an amendment, or if it can just be fixed and sent. I don't think it's that formal
I
at
do
this
not
point.
believe this report has been submitted.
Okay.
I believe it was due, or it's due very shortly. I think we were supposed to already have done this, and because Mark wasn't here last time, we missed the boat on it.
Got lost.
Yeah.
This says March the 17th, is it?
Is when the letter is due.
Annual report?
I'm sorry to be upsetting the apple cart here.
No, but this says it's the annual
Yeah.
report.
You don't
And
know
this says
which
it's the annual report.
Yeah, that's what,
So I think maybe Dana can put,
Why don't I call her
So-
tomorrow
if you call,
and just say, as I frequently do, help me.
so I think, tell me if we're wrong, we have the letter ready to go that Mark signed. The letter, does
Yeah.
it say there's nothing?
he just said it needs to be put on the town letterhead. And I'm assuming that I think he sent a copy of that email to Dana.
Well, if this just gets maybe even attached to that, and he's signed that.
Yeah.
All we have to do is fix this, and
Right.
then affix this to the signed and wing it away. I'll call Dana in the morning.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. We need to vote on it to.
Yeah,
We need
yeah,
to vote
that
on
will-
it, so we can vote on it with the
Yeah, sure.
change and.
Okay. Okay. Maryland Department of Planning requests each municipality provide an annual report providing data to the county-wide submittal will cover the state requirement. Please contact Maryland Department of Planning or Tiffany Fawcett with questions about the annual report. I assume that's what we were just discussing.
I think so.
Okay, 2022 Carroll County Hazardous Mitigation Plan. The county's Department of Public Safety received FEMA's Plan Review Tool with required and recommended revisions to the hazardous mitigation plan. Public Safety met with county agencies and municipalities to review the required revisions on January the 9th and met with FEMA to review their comments on January the 17th. The county will be working with municipal staff to revise and resubmit the draft hazard mitigation plan to FEMA. Updated requirements for the hazardous mitigation plan will be going into effect mid-April, so required modifications need to be made as soon as possible. Local communities must have a FEMA-approved hazardous mitigation plan in place to receive federal grant funds for hazard mitigation projects, according to FEMA's Local Hazard Mitigation Planning Handbook. Mitigation is defined as any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to human life and property from a hazard event. Didn't we discuss that and said we didn't really apply to us, or we didn't have any?
I don't know that we have any new ones. There's one floating around. I think I've seen it. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask Dana about that.
Yeah. Economic Development and Land Use Study. The Economic Development and Land Use Study officially kicks off the first leg of the county's 2025 General Development Plan, or Master Plan. This study is necessary for the county to receive an up-to-date evaluation of the county's current economic standing in the region, as well as understanding of how the county is positioned to grow and prosper while competing with other jurisdictions in the regional market. The first public workshop on this study will be held on February the 16th, 2023, from 5 to 7 p.m. at Exploration Commons, 50 East Main Street, Westminster. Staff will be available to answer any questions from the public. That's all history. I don't know if anybody attended that or not. Okay, I don't know whether did everybody get a copy of this letter?
I think Dana sent it out.
I think she sent that. Carroll County, the 2022 annual report, New Windsor's contribution to that. Does everybody have a chance to review that? If so, and if anybody has any problems with it or any changes they see, if not, we need to approve this letter. I guess that would be with the exception of the change on question 3. Were there any text amendments?
So we need a motion to
Yeah, we
approve
need a motion to approve this letter.
the data with the change that we discussed earlier.
I'll make a motion to approve the data with the change that we made.
Okay, I have a motion by Kevin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Dave seconds. All those in favor signify saying aye.
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 Opposed, so carried. Okay. Looks like continued review of the comprehensive master plan. Is the next item on your agenda.
So we should be starting on page 73, chapter 7, transportation.
Transportation.
That jive with you, Emily? Okay, good deal.
I do have a random procedural. And a bunch of these flagged that Abigail was going to check, or check on.
Yes. Yes. So we're going to have to ask Price if she forwarded any of that. I have a suspicion that the answer could be no,
Okay,
so we may have to compile that list and
I can do that.
submit it to Price and see if he'll
I have a 4-hour plane ride
work
next
to get us stuff.
week. So I have a 4-hour plane ride next week, so I can do that then.
Okay.
I checked with the county, and I don't, whether transportation is part of that concurrency plan, concurrency management report. The county is working on that and will have its adequate public facilities, schools, police and EMS, fire. I don't know whether the road is part of that.
I don't think that roads in that regard are generally part of an APF. They are for like a particular development. Is this intersection an A, B, C, D, E, F? But we really want you to go ahead and widen 31, would be, I think, a different calculation. I don't really know what they're looking for on that.
So I don't know if anybody's taken a look at this, section 7.
I just started to.
Okay, but, you know, I did, and
A lot of
Michelle, they start off with, the inventory of all our streets.
Yeah.
We have streets.
Yeah,
And then they're, Carroll County classifies them by a whole bunch of, there's a chart.
Yeah, collectors and
And-
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and I guess there was a lot of stuff in here that I wondered, does it really need to be in our comprehensive
I don't think so.
plan? I mean, we are trying to streamline this a little bit. There was a lot of stuff that I was just like,
Yeah, like
What?
Union Bridge Road. It's a very
Which-
megalopolis kind of street. Yeah.
yes, I mean, there's just every one of them, and then it talks about in the 1997 plan and all this. And I didn't know if this was a wholesale kind of thing.
and if you add like any new, like,
If there were contemplation, say, of bringing a new road, a major road, around the back of the reserve to meet up with 31 down here,
a bypass.
around the Snaders.
Yes.
I think that contemplation you might want to put in a plan, but you're not planning to do anything with Green Valley Road, except try not to drive on it. So I really don't know exactly why all of this stuff is in there. In fairness, every commission has different styles, every planner has different styles. The county planners were much more involved, and I think this was Bobby, and then that other gal who was married
Barb?
to Dave Tarif.
Barb.
Oh, Barb.
Barb Lilly.
Yeah, Lily.
Prior.
Both of them tend to be detail-oriented individuals. And maybe that's why it is like this, but there's no requirement, certainly. Can you imagine a Baltimore City's plan if it had every street that's on there?
So if we just look at what the goals of transportation of this
Get
section.
you from point
what-
A to
what-
point
what-
B.
What is the goal of this section, chapter 7? It says address intersection safety improvements, promote sidewalk connections, and install traffic calming devices. That's the goals of transportation, chapter 7. Is that still what we feel our goals should be?
Well, they kind of are. I mean, every month we hear Kevin talk about how we really want safer intersections. So safer intersections is obviously a goal.
So I
But, you know.
could agree with that, and that's why I believe a whole bunch of it can be taken out. And I think if we were to address those kind of goals, right, that addressing intersection safety, promoting sidewalk connection, and install traffic calming devices, we could sum up that, and some of that is already in
Some of
here.
that's in
That
here.
that are no different than what we're still trying to do with our.
But everyone
streets.
everywhere is trying to do. There is language in here about pedestrian walkways and improving the sidewalks. Well, that's still a goal. As long as you've got a 200-year-old town, improving your sidewalks is going to be a goal. But I think the historical stuff, the fact-based historical stuff that's throughout this plan probably is of some interest, but if anybody wants it, you can direct them to this plan.
So would we say that inventory of existing streets and the glossary is something that
I
could
don't
be?
frankly know that you need a glossary. You don't use those terms.
Well, yeah,
And for example, all caps, the old Main Street State Scenic Byway passes through New Windsor. Well, it's news to me. I've never heard of a road called the Old Main Street State Scenic Byway.
there is a sign out on 75 and 30, and that's it.
I must not go that way.
Yeah.
So it's not a street, right? It's the scenic byways that they route, and it happens to.
Except
go
it
through.
seems to be like 75, High Street. I mean, it's a town street. I don't know why it's called that. Anyway, my point is, I don't think you need all of
inventory pedestrian and bikeway facilities and greenways. That is in the county's.
That's the county
mas-
thing.
Yeah,
is
that's a
that- is
county.
that,
Cats, we have makes no stops.
They don't even call it cats anymore.
But no, yeah, it's
And
not,
man, we have pages of it in here.
yeah.
Pages.
Well, you're
I-
preaching to the choir on those
I
things.
went with
so.
big X's through.
So I'm hearing that I should delete everything up to analysis of community needs.
Even that. 'Cause I had a big question mark on that the last time we went through this.
Would we keep the goals?
Well, so I didn't cross out the analysis because I think there was some data in there that maybe helps us address some of the goal wordage that we still are trying to do intersection calming, you know, and so I thought some of that may still be applicable.
But all of this stuff about cats. Park and ride lots. You don't have a park and ride lot in town, do you?
Well, no, and it says we don't, but it talks about all the other ones in the county, like,
Well, you know, the county wrote this plan.
right, well, it doesn't say the
They
county on
came
the
to the
cover.
county, I mean, they came to planning commission meetings, but the county planning department was intimately involved with the drafting of master plans for every jurisdiction, not just yours. So, you know, when you're a hammer, so when you're the county, everything looks like the county. But we're not the county anymore, and they opted not to do this for us, or apparently much of anything else. So, ooh.
Is there any need to just say that State Route 31 travel goes through town
Oh.
and 75 ends?
I
terminates,
did
or-
notice this. It's since this was done. Or no, maybe not. The High Street extension so that part of Maine was conveyed to the town.
No, it's still, I think, a state
Is it
road.
still state? I thought that part between here and 75 was supposed to be
The state,
ours.
state plow, oh,
State-
no, oh, you talking about
That's.
Main Street? You talking about Main
I'm
Street?
talking about Main Street,
Yeah,
but I say,
I think.
well, from
is-
High,
Isn't that after streetscape is done?
maybe,
Because it's still being done under the state highway administration.
I know that is ultimately the plan.
That is
So
the
maybe
plan.
something like that goes in your plan because it's planned.
Right. I think that's after the streetscape. So we get the state to pay for
Yeah.
the improvements along there, and then it gets conveyed to the town.
Is that something you think we need to improve, or was that something that will date this plan that will?
Well, I mean, the plans
down-
are dated the day they're signed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, life goes on. So it's kind of interesting to, if you really are a complete planning geek, to go back and look at the 30-year-ago plan and the 20-year-ago plan. But I just thought of that as, do you want something like that? You know, just a mention of that.
Well, there's a ton of stuff in this plan that wasn't done, that we're still thinking about we'd like to do. It's the same stuff.
Yep. And you can leave some of the futuristic stuff and take out the list of town streets.
So to try to focus us, I guess we've all moved to page like 78. I think we killed everything from 73. goals, current conditions we've killed, and now we're looking at analysis of community needs, and I think Kevin's right that some of that can certainly go away. It should be rewritten just to maybe address things that we think are still important, like on page 80, where it talks about the time that Windsor worked with Shaw to develop a streetscape plan. So we are still, the town is still working with the
Yes.
State Highway Administration on the streetscape plan. It's still for the same place. I don't know that we need to talk about the effort was halted in 2002 or anything like that. We just need to say that we are still actively working with the State Highway Administration for that.
Because we currently only have funding for replacing the water line, correct?
Well, we have funding for replacing the water line. When that's done, the State Highway Administration will come in and do their part. Their part does not meet with what we believe we want. So they're gonna do sidewalks and paving. We have a much bigger scale that they agreed to in the past that we're trying to still work with them to do in the future. Things like
Yeah.
street lights and retaining walls and, things to beautify it as well. So that's really the top of page 80 that talks about our streetscape plan. And then it starts, there's some intersections that it talks about that are true, and they haven't changed. But I don't know, Michelle, what, for instance, the intersection of Springdale Avenue and Rowell Road. Existing condition of this intersection involves a severe sight distance problem and topographical changes. Okay? Yes, I mean, that's what, yes.
I don't think either Springdale Avenue or Row Road is going to be rerouted anytime soon to address that issue.
No. So is our position that we point out these issues in our plan?
Honestly, I
Is
think a
that-
lot of this is truly up to you. You can do it the way they did it, and list everything, or you can narrow it down, tailor it more to what you want to try and accomplish over the next 10 years before this plan gets done again.
So there's three areas that they called out in this plan, right? And those three areas still exist today, exactly the same problems and the same thing. And I think I would, although there's no plans to do anything about any of them, I think it may be a good idea to include them in our plan and under stating something that these are trouble spots.
Ongoing concerns.
Ongoing concern, because someday, someone's gonna wanna throw some grant money at us to
And then they're
build a
gonna
$1 million
say, "Where is that in
bridge
your
down there,
plan?"
and they're gonna say, is it in your comprehensive plan to do that? And we're gonna say, crap, we didn't put it in there. So I think,
It's one of the reasons these things grow like topsy.
yes. There's only three of them, and they're the three, and one of them, the one that really, they talk about in this is the railroad crossing at Church and Main Streets, right? And they even, somewhere in here, gave an estimate of like $800,000 to fix it back in 2010. And, we don't have that kind of data to say, well, now it's $1.6 million, but I think if we call it out in
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
They have since upgraded the warning. They put the overhead light, before, when this was done,
Right.
there was only
Right.
the semaphores on,
yeah.
but now they have put overhead, there's a audible bell.
Yes, but there's no sidewalk. It needs widened there. There's no sidewalk to
Yeah,
connect
well-
Atlee Ridge over to the town like they want.
Yeah.
And, that's gonna require a new bridge to be built over Dickinson Run.
Okay, if you're talking about C, I mean, that more or less just specifically talks about the railroad
Well,
crossing.
yes, and the whole road improvement is
Yeah.
in this section. I don't, I think it's just that, talking about that intersection. You're right, railroad portion of it has been updated.
But I think your point of consistency with the master plan, I forget exactly how that came up a half an hour ago, is a good one for grant money, because that is always one of the questions that they ask. So it doesn't have to be in great detail, but you can have in here that we recognize that that's a problem, and as soon as we got some lolly, we're gonna fix it,
Right.
you know.
So Emily, those three, and there's verbiage in the next page or two that can be added to those three projects. Maybe it was under recommended.
So I would, wherever, I know it comes up at least in one, maybe two places, yeah, costs. I don't know that you want to keep 10-year-old cost estimates.
Absolutely not.
You know,
and-
so
But I don't
you-
know that we're gonna have any.
No, I think maybe
Cost.
you just say,
Yes.
are anticipated to be very significant. Or
Yes, I agree.
some sort of stuff like that.
So this analysis of community, going back to page 79, do you think that first paragraph is something that, because it would tie into adding the sidewalks, would that be something we might want to?
I thought there was some verbiage in those first two paragraphs that could be kept. Because we are talking about traffic calming with the streetscape people, whether that be, to push the intersection bump outs or, and I would like them to possibly do the different color paving where the crosswalks are, make it look like a brick crosswalk that makes people want to slow down and things like that. So they are ideas that we do currently have that are in here as well. So I think those things need to be kept. Not saying calming mounds or anything like that, but there's other ways that they do it.
Elevated medians
Are completely impossible in this jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And besides which, they need to be called neutral grounds,
Oh,
like good Orleanians. That's what those things are.
Neutral ground.
Neutral grounds. Yeah, between that side and this side is the neutral ground.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, you can put in or take out anything you want. I do think elevated medians are probably silly here, but
Well, they're not going to put it on State Highway 31.
Yeah.
they're not gonna
So-
put it on, and the roads aren't big enough for them, even if you
Yeah,
wanted
right.
them.
So, and of course, the roundabout thing has been deleted from the plan,
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
whole
that's-
paragraph is gone.
so on 80, what were you looking about?
Well, on 80, I was it just kind of lists the three road areas, and they're talked about, speckled through here, so I think Emily can see those and pull that kind of information underneath the three.
Especially that Springdale Avenue and Royal Roads, that would be a county project. And to me, it's something like that should stay on, you think? But,
I think it should be mentioned in here as areas of concern, yes. So are we all on the same page now? Emily, you okay? Are you on 81?
I am at the need of safety improvements, and then it gets into A, B, and C. It's because my page numbers no longer match.
What's your heading called, I'm sorry?
It's there is no heading, but it's the intersection of Springdale, intersection of Springdale and New Windsor, and Railroad Crossing.
Okay, so there were the three that
That was
were.
page 80, yeah.
Yes, okay, so all right, so the next thing is recommended actions. Michelle, you ever hear of a county's community traffic safety program coordinator position in the
I
county?
know they've got a couple of transport-type people over there, but what their names are these days, because you must also remember that every 4 years, they have a new hierarchical chart that changes everybody's names over there. So I have never heard that, but I never heard Old Main Street Scenic Byways, or whatever that other thing was, so I don't get out enough, I guess.
I'm sure you've seen those signs with, they got the black-eyed Susans on them. It says scenic byway.
Probably.
And you can just follow them through the,
Yeah, they've got a few
meander
different
through the
ones. There's
county.
another with like, that's all the Civil War.
Yeah, I
I
think
have seen the
27,
Civil
yeah,
War
isn't
ones.
27 a scenic byway too? I mean,
I mean,
Frederick
parts
Road?
of it could be. I mean,
Yeah.
it meanders through the
But
town.
they're roads, right? They're not like walking
No,
trails.
no, they're just roads.
they're just
If you're on your way to flood zone, you would see them going out 27.
I believe,
Okay,
yes,
next time I
on
go out there, I'll
75.
keep my eye
Yeah.
out.
because flood zone is probably on a scenic byway. That's
And
one
a
of
flood
their-
zone.
One of their
Time.
draws.
The
One of their
scenic
historic-
floodway.
The historic draw.
I think that coincides with the state map, because they
Probably
usually
does.
have a list of the states.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and that's the reason,
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of, there's folks in the government doing nothing but thinking. That's why they kicked me out.
Well, this whole recommended actions about the town working with this county's community traffic safety program coordinator to work on our safety needs and solutions.
Well, maybe if there is still such a position, we should at least know what its current name is.
Or we could just say the town should work with the county to continue to
Appropriate
identify safety
county
needs.
Entities, yeah.
I mean, just,
Appropriate county personnel, maybe?
Yeah, I like that.
the community traffic safety program is something with the sheriff's department.
Well, this isn't talking about enforcement.
Yeah,
This is talking about
yeah.
fixing. And these are those three areas that, again, it's talking about things that needed to be done to fix them, and you know, it mentions sidewalk, it mentions streetscape, it mentions widening that and putting sidewalk in from Atlee Ridge, and, I mean, there's still, and it talks about the intersection at Church and High Street, so they're all still concerns that we talk about sometimes monthly in our meetings, those areas. So, you know, I don't have a problem with leaving them in here to show that there's still problems. That should kind of take everybody over to page 82 where it talks about this bicycle.
and pedestrians, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is need, I have no doubt, but
County's been talking about these greenways for as long as I can remember.
well, they want to be Montgomery County with the bike pass. Everybody does.
So I didn't remember, and I didn't take the time to pull up, did Abigail, any of the maps that she gave us, the new maps, have like the linear trail and that bicycle in them? Because if there is a map, an updated map that shows that, then we could easily just say, you know.
Refer to
kinda
map
re-
X.
Right.
That's how Greenbelt got its name, you know.
Because it was the green
Town
belt?
of Greenbelt was way back when it was all green down there. It was one of the projects of, during the New Deal. And it was gonna be a whole, kind of almost like a Columbia-like, self-contained little area, and it was gonna be surrounded by a green belt, and it was gonna be beautiful, and everybody was gonna love it. And if all of those people in 1934 could see green belt today, they weren't already dead, they'd be dead and rolling in there.
Yeah.
There's the one she has, New Windsor Bike Trail,
Union Ridge Bike Trail, parks,
and if I remember,
So there's a map that shows New Windsor is participating in the overall bike path.
Experience.
So we should
Well,
address
you
it.
yeah.
We should address it in the plan.
I'm thinking one time we got something from the county where they, because remember they were,
Yeah,
they were gonna run
surveying,
along
yes.
the railroad tracks.
Yes.
And, and we were saying how touchy they are
Yeah,
about the
the
right
next
of way.
rails to trails.
Yeah.
and all
Yeah, they
that
were, because
stuff.
they were gonna connect us with Union Bridge, weren't they?
That, stuck 75, I think.
Yeah.
What do they think?
So that first paragraph sums it up pretty well. The pedestrian element of the plan involves the connection via sidewalks, alleys, and trails, points of interest. So that first paragraph
Yeah.
is fine. Then we can point to map 7 to show that.
Where it is,
Where it is,
Yeah.
where it's intended to be, or however.
if it ever were.
I was thinking the county had one tying New Windsor to Westminster, to the Wakefield Valley, somewhere along the.
Yeah, there
They're
was
not designated.
I
talk.
never made it this far down at all.
I don't think I'd ride a bicycle on Old Wakefield Valley Road. Pretty, but
So other than that, it talks about the medium and high intensity. I don't think we want to have any of that kind of stuff in there. And even that last paragraph where, whenever possible, the town should require pedestrian facility, well, you know, the developments and stuff, we don't have any more major developments. And we did require in Snyder Summit that it hooked into the town, you know, via that little path that goes down there. So I think we did that already. That's already done. And I don't really think that that's,
Let's see this.
you gotta be careful against putting in language like to mandate. Because if for some reason then the topography doesn't work, or you lose an entire lot because you need another foot on your sidewalk, it's risky to mandate things in a plan like this. Because you just don't know how things are gonna shake out over time. I guess that's why you do a plan.
You know, the paragraph below those, the medium, high, and environmental. I think that the paragraph below should stay in.
not with where the town should require pedestrian facilities such as sidewalks or trails as
Yeah,
part of the
we don't want to
development
use the
review.
word require.
You could say encourage, but I wouldn't say require.
So I mean, we did require that. I don't know. I guess we could put that in there in the event there was some development, some kind of
You
development.
required
that-
sidewalks internally for
Yes,
Snyder Summit,
Yeah.
but there's not a whole sidewalk trail coming all the way down past
If they're not connected to the town by sidewalk.
not on that
Snyder
side.
Summit is.
Snyder
Yeah,
Summit
but
is.
not down 31.
No,
down
no,
around
it comes
on
down
the side.
Yes, and it comes down and,
and ties in at Hillside
yes,
Drive.
yes, yes. We did require that.
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking of on
Yes,
31.
no, not on
No,
the main.
that's,
And I don't know that there's a state highway administration retrofit sidewalk program any longer.
I haven't heard about it.
That can't be in there.
It's called something else now.
I'm sure. Try to find it.
so do we want to change from require to encourage?
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
or just, we're not putting this in at all?
Well, I guess I don't have a problem. For instance, we have that maybe 3 or 4 house, little parcel over there.
On Lambert?
On Lambert, right? And there's no there's no sidewalks anywhere around Lambert. However, maybe we do want to encourage sidewalk, I don't know.
Build a sidewalk to the post office.
I would never, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to require them, but maybe.
Well, you
maybe
know the
there's some-
problem too with the requiring thing, and I live in Westminster, you know, I see this all over Westminster. There's 4 houses that have a sidewalk that go from here to here. And then there's no more sidewalks.
Yes.
Because those are, you know, houses built in the 50s.
Yeah.
And then there's a handful more houses built in the 80s that have a sidewalk in front of them. So it's just dopey.
Yeah,
And so somebody said everything's got to have a sidewalk, that's new, which is fine, but no one in the 1950s house says, golly Moses, what I really need to do is put a sidewalk in front of my house. I'm sorry, I get
my
surly
boy,
about that
Hood
sort of thing.
Home on Hillside Drive is the only lot that has a sidewalk. Everybody else walks in the street. So,
I mean, in a perfect world, you could somehow just drop sidewalks down like manna from heaven, but it doesn't work that way.
So what do you all think about that? Do we want to just put encourage in there and just
Yeah, I think
be
that,
about?
yeah,
I'd go with encourage.
yeah, I would too. Yeah.
And I guess the last, including
Yeah.
these projects in the town CIP and seeking funding through program, that should be all removed.
Yeah.
Emily, on board?
I just want to make sure, so delete the last sentence as well.
Yes.
Okay.
For those with a book, page 83, linear, it's B, Emily, linear park bicycle and pedestrian pathway. I made giant X's through that whole page
Well,
because I
town-
have
yeah.
no idea if that's accurate. We are pointing to the map that the county gave us. That's what that's all about, for the bike portion of it, and
since the town has a linear park included in its planned park facilities?
I don't think we actually have a park plan. Do we? Well, we will when there's a page that says parks in this one.
oh, it looks like we were gonna buy something, it says.
So the land between Hillside Drive and Tibbetts Lane is currently agricultural, it's all developed now. Wow, this, so that page talks about this planned linear park. I mean, that's,
Yep.
so, all of 83,
Yep, I think it's gone. I really didn't see anything on 84 that I thought was necessary either.
No.
You don't want to follow the CSS guidelines to scenic byways?
I've never seen that have an impact in town here.
No, I don't either.
Is that Little Pipe Creek Trail, still, I wonder if that's still in the county books?
Never have heard anything about it. 3.5 mile, 8 to 10 foot wide trail. Union Bridge and New Windsor along Little Pipe Creek.
Yeah, because Union Bridge made one that comes out of town and then ends
Winds.
up on 75.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it said that it would more or less use existing road rights, the shoulder, which people do now, walking the shoulder. I mean, to me, it doesn't.
Say bye-bye.
I've never heard boo about that, ever.
Michelle, are you seeing anything in here that maybe that if we want to go for future funding that, like,
No, I really don't. All of those things are really, like the Little Pipe Creek Trail, that's a county project.
Yeah.
That's not a town project, even if it were a project at all.
three, I think you want to keep that in there?
Well, the town is pursuing it, though.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to say, we could say the town is pursuing. I don't think it's to say should. I mean, if you want to keep it in there, we are
At least the 31.
actively,
Yeah, I mean, that should be, town is.
Well, it's past the concept stage as well.
Yeah.
See, this is
This must have been,
old, this is old language, right? I mean, this was just talking about, since they continued up there, that was part of it. Let's figure out how we're gonna, get them to pay, figure out the concept. Well, we're past the concept.
Yeah.
We have.
Goes all the way down the
Yes,
wall.
Yes. What's- I'm trying to see what the heading that this is 3, 2, recommended actions. So the only thing I think it could say is, and I thought we said it earlier, is the town should continue, or is continue, whatever, to work with the state. We already said that once somewhere, just a little
Yeah.
earlier. I don't know what it adds, just.
instead of renew efforts, to put, continue efforts to improve.
Continue efforts to implement the Maryland 31, and it's not Maryland 31 and Maryland 75.
Yeah, I don't think,
No.
nobody's doing anything with
No,
75.
it's
are
just,
they?
it's just the Maryland 31 streetscape plan. So if we want to leave that in there, that's fine. And then,
Now, as an arguing point to get Main Street revitalization. This is Old Main Street, it's designated a scenic Old Main Street byway. I don't know what that,
Much about Main Street's all that scenic. if you
yeah.
ask me.
You say, well, it's not too scenic, because we got all these broke up sidewalks and, I know, well, that's a selling point, they want to, encourage people to drive these.
So, I mean, yeah, we could leave it in there, and we could point to that, right? Apparently, it comes down 31, and it
Yeah,
goes
it's-
up Main Street, and it shoots out 75,
Oh, yeah.
and goes down there, and it's the only one in the county. You know what it says?
Yeah,
So, we can point to it.
yeah, you can, that the state has designated that.
I'll have to remember to bring it up with our state when they're here.
Have new businesses in town called the Scenic Byway,
Yeah.
whatever.
Take pictures of the signs, because the representatives probably don't
No,
realize what.
probably not.
Who's the commissioner now? Who's the commissioner out here? The new one?
Of Viglio-
Joe
Oh,
Vigliotti.
Vigliotti, okay.
Say that, and say, well, we'll just do from 75 down out, they won't do the upper end of Main Street. And here we have investigate and employ traffic calming options.
I put a check mark in there to keep that,
Yeah, I'll say,
because we talk about that every town council meeting.
yeah. I guarantee you that needs to be in there.
Explore cost sharing agreements with county to expedite local roadway.
Before we leave number 5, I don't know that we want to have, it is recommended that a policy for selecting areas appropriate for traffic calming be proposed. I don't think we want that. We don't want to have to come up with a policy before we figure out.
It says that some roads need them and some don't.
So more or less that last sentence, delete.
Second to last one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
Yes.
still keep including in the policy recognition of the types of traffic calming, because there are various types.
One that starts with, towards that end, it is recommended that a policy. Did you find that one, Emily?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out,
Then if you keep the last sentence,
Yeah,
it doesn't make
is
sense.
that- yeah, well, what's the policy?
okay.
So I would say as neighborhoods grow and local traffic volume and speeds increase, the town of New Windsor will implement some traffic control devices? Or may implement?
The problem is not so much local traffic, it's traffic going through town.
Yes, which we can't control.
Yeah.
Which is state.
And we can't do a traffic calming on that road.
I mean, you can just take my approach and drive up and down a few times a day, adhering to the speed limit deliberately and pissing off everybody behind you.
Well, I mean, that paragraph needs to say that New Windsor needs to, New Windsor should continue to look into traffic calming devices and work with the appropriate
Opportunities.
Agencies,
blah, blah, blah.
agencies to implement that, right? We may decide that we need to do something on Lambert Avenue. That's a town concern, to do some kind of traffic calming where people don't zip down that
Yeah,
thing.
use
Like
that
we
for-
did, we put a stop
Yeah,
sign
put
up
stop
in the
signs
middle.
in, yes.
Right. That may not be the best or only
But-
way to
but
handle
yeah.
that. But we also need to work with the state to make sure that from
Because
the
we did
railroad
that on
tracks
Church
to
Street, too.
7-Eleven, that people aren't, high speed.
Put stop signs in on Church Street to do the same thing. many years ago.
Yeah, we just
yes.
don't have jurisdiction, put stop signs on High and Main Street.
Slow people down. It's like going through a shopping center.
So we on number 6 then, for those keeping score?
Yeah.
Explore cost-sharing agreements with the county to expedite local roadway projects. And does the county do that?
They actually do occasionally. I haven't seen it out here. Because it has to generally be part of some industrial development plan or something like that. Now, if there was some
Economic
project out in the
development.
Tibbetts general area, I mean, well, the county was involved in doing some of the water and all of that for Tibbetts, whatever that was, 30 years ago when that project was started. So they do still do some of it. I've seen some up around Hampstead proposed, didn't actually come to fruition.
Well, I mean, all that's exactly what those verbiage is in there
Yeah.
is saying. You know, where there's economic,
So 6
Development of-
should stay.
I think it
Yeah,
could
I
stay
think
without
you-
any problem.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on this fiscal
Implications.
implications? So this is where I saw that $875 to $875,000 to do the bridge and stuff. We don't have any of that kind of,
And several of them have that kind of information. We just don't have.
and
Yeah, it's,
I don't really know, it doesn't really matter.
No, you could just put in a boatload of money.
Do we even need to,
Talk about fiscal implications.
does there need to be a section?
Well,
If there needs to be a fiscal implications section, then
I don't think there needs to be, but the question that somebody like me who's got a little bit of Mr. Monk in her, if you've got 5 chapters that have fiscal implications and 4 that don't, or 1 that doesn't, that sort of thing drives me crazy.
okay.
But I don't know that they all do. This one doesn't. Yes, this one does. But they say no fiscal impact.
So what's that fine print that starts that out that looks like maybe?
I don't know why that's fine. I really don't know
Is that
why
lawyer-
that's fine.
Is that lawyer language?
No.
I mean, it's.
I don't think I would ever say action-oriented.
italicized, it's pulled out of some other,
Well, and it specifically says here, they're talking about the fiscal impact to the county,
Yeah.
not to the town.
Yeah, I don't know why it's here, and it never made a lot of sense to me. And the fiscal impact sections across the board, a lot of them just say no fiscal impact, because they didn't know. But the fiscal impact of anything that you sit down now and you go to Home Depot and you say, I need a new refrigerator, and there's one for $2,000. If you wait 7 years to get that refrigerator and go back to Home Depot, chances of it being $2,000 are pretty slim. So I don't know why a long-term plan like this has numbers in it. Now, you can say things like a bridge over Dickinson Run, which may involve not merely the state, but federal EPA and who are the people that get involved with that? Corps of Engineers, will no doubt have extensive cost implications, but you have no idea what they're gonna be.
change that to buku bucks.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you're saying for consistency purpose, for whatever numbers we left in there, in this section, there should be a corresponding fiscal implication
I
letter
think some of
that
this
says
also is
something.
habit, and you see the phrase fiscal note, which is in one of these things.
Yes,
I saw it.
down towards the end there.
Yeah, Little
86.
Pipe Creek Trail.
That's a statewide, with the Annapolis, that's an Annapolitan term at the state level. Some of them automatically have a fiscal note. And electeds can ask whatever the state version of the CBO is for an estimate of cost. So somebody comes in and says, here's my proposed, SB 5, and either the proponents or the opponents, depending on what the fiscal note might look like, come back and say, Madam Chair, I request a fiscal note. Or if you are in South Louisiana, where I used to spend a fair amount of time in the legislature, a physical note. That's what they always ask for, a physical note. And it's a calculation. So I think that concept kind of carries through in these things, which is just my opinion based on nothing at all, except the use of that phrase, which I only see in that other context. But you can't do a fiscal, and you don't have the skills or anything else. Maybe somebody at, what's his name over there?
Oh, Glenn?
The guy who was Steve Powell, Ted Zaleski, might be able to, his office might be able to do a fiscal note, but. Cost cannot be determined at this time, and then there's a whole bunch of numbers. So how you want to deal with that's up to you.
All right, so I guess, Emily, to keep you straight, I guess for consistency purpose, let's make sure whatever was left out of this section has a corresponding letter under fiscal implications, and then there's some minor verbiage that, some of this verbiage is probably okay, where there's a undetermined impact or and don't put any of these dollar values in there that.
Well, here's a thought, and this shows up, this same italicized language
Yes.
shows up in a couple of other chapters.
Yes.
Maybe you should take the sideways printed stuff, put it somewhere in like the introduction section, a sentence that says, when feasible, fiscal considerations are also included, however, italicized language, put it in once, you don't have to put it in half a dozen times, because it looks like it's the same a half a dozen times. But that way it's in there if anybody questions if it's in there, but you don't have to say it over and over again. I don't know exactly where.
It was in the next section, I believe.
No, but I mean in the general,
Put where you're gonna put it.
yeah. Because I just saw it again somewhere else in one of the other things I was flipping through to see if it was there. Yeah, here, it's in. Whatever this section is that I can't find the beginning of. Chapter 3 or 4.
It's in section 8 as well on page 104.
Yeah, so you see what I'm saying? Put it in once at the beginning, any reference to fiscal implications.
Could you put it in, don't they have like a glossary or something, or a definition?
Yeah, somewhere up in like, in
Yeah.
an introductory sort of concept.
I don't know the best place to put it, but
Either up.
We can find a place.
the introduction.
It's hard to find a place to put something until you're closer to a final draft.
You got it marked? You got it flagged? Okay. All right. That should take us then to chapter 8.
So we're letting in all these,
We're just going to let Emily put in the headings for the ones that we kept.
And then make sure that none of them have any actual numbers.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's only for the fiscal implication section of that.
So we're at page 89, chapter 8.
Yep. Community facilities. I thought the goals were okay.
Yeah, I think that, the goals, yeah, to me,
But then when we start going through it, there's a lot of stuff that's just New Windsor Middle School.
It's gone, yeah.
yeah. This is where I was talking about, where the concurrency management plan, we'll get the update. That's the, you know, like for the sheriff's department, all that should be coming out in June. That's,
Okay.
as far as any facts and figures,
Yeah,
they're working on that now, and
but I honestly don't really know that the town of New Windsor master plan needs to specify how many books are in the library in Westminster.
yeah.
Gee, I put a big X through that.
Not only that, I haven't been in down there since they redid and did all this exploration commons and everything else.
Supposed to be pretty neat. I haven't
That's
been there
that's
either.
what they say, but I'm a book person, so I'll be curious to see if they still have 101,000 volumes, or if they got rid of it also, that they could put in 3D printers.
So I guess we need to update this data, right? This information. So community facilities, current conditions,
School, New Windsor,
schools.
that's,
So there are 3 schools, right? There's Elmer Wolf,
yes.
and I don't know what the middle school is called now that they go to.
Northwest
The
Middle.
Northwest
the
Middle,
kids go
yes.
to Northwest
Northwest
Middle, I
Middle,
think.
okay.
most of them from
up
here.
in Tawnytown, yeah, but it, yeah.
Right. And Francis Scott Key, so that's good. And then we gotta start scratching some stuff. New Windsor Middle School, that needs to come out. I think both Elmer Wolf and New Windsor Middle were relatively new, built in the 90s, that needs to come out.
Yeah, the relatively new part.
Francis Scott Key was also more recently updated, that needs to come out. I think the rest of that whole thing comes out, right? Because we don't know, no addition major improvement projects for the New Windsor area were in the Carroll County Public Schools Education Facilities Master Plan 2006 to 2015.
Yeah, I don't
We
know
don't-
what's
we
in
don't-
their plan now.
we don't know what's
They
in
have
the
a
plan.
new plan, but I feel confident there isn't
Nothing.
a major facility coming back to New Windsor.
So all that first sentence says is the name of the 3 schools,
Yeah.
the first paragraph. Everything else goes.
Even the last, no major improvement projects. They wouldn't, they used to even put that in there.
Right, right. In most cases,
And you could leave that second paragraph in and then just have your little chart. Change New Windsor Middle to Northwest. Same initials.
Oh, okay. With that, in most cases, the school tenants area.
so then I'm assuming that the county can get us the new data for
It
that.
is to be hoped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public
Well,
library.
you good? Okay.
Nada.
Well, I thought the first paragraph, residents of New Windsor are encouraged to take advantage of the services offered to Westminster Branch
Yeah.
of Carroll County Public Library and the address. And I don't care that it was opened in 1980, it was a modern facility, 40,000 square, don't care about any of that kind of stuff. I thought I'll let it go. And then I thought the rest of that page could go.
So just stop at the current structure open, it was the county's first modern library. Does that even need to be in there? Or,
No, I scratched that too.
I don't think there's ongoing discussion about using any of the headquarters facility as lending library purposes still. I know they were talking about that when they first came out. You know, maybe we'd have a small area that would be kind of like a stationary bookmobile
Right.
size,
no,
but that never happened.
I noticed the community has lost use of the old community center. Is that the county,
You mean where we used to meet?
yes, is,
So they changed that into office space, remember? We
Yeah,
lost
but the
that.
cafeteria part, is that's also not
Well,
publicly
Well,
available anymore?
It was not, right? But I will tell you, on last Thursday, when I was walking home from our special water meeting, there was a bunch of, like, cheerleader people outside. So I said to Debbie, I said, are they using that again? Because there used to be, remember, there would
Yeah, oh, yeah.
have mats everywhere and do all their stuff. I think they're back in there, and when I kinda, from what I could see from the road, it looks like the room's empty again. So,
It's a perfectly good room. I mean, it should be accessible. What the heck else they gonna do with
yeah,
it?
so it may be accessible again. And that's,
because, did you get a new voter registration card?
I did.
That this is, the polling place now.
Here,
Yes.
for countywide elections?
No,
Or just
no.
municipal?
No, countywide, federal,
Mine had two polling places listed. One is the library headquarters for like state and federal, and then one is this for municipal election.
Well, we used this building,
For-
the last mayoral election
Yes.
was here.
yes.
So that
Yes.
was the last election, right? Because we
Yes.
got this one coming up as the first one since then.
oh,
But we had it
okay,
here.
okay, yeah, now it says
Yeah,
municipal election, okay.
the
What's
poor
it say,
Dana's head
community
would
meeting?
explode if they were
Because I
gonna
got
have.
card too.
Yeah,
the
okay.
countywide and statewide
Municipal election
elections
is
here.
the
Yeah, town
okay.
hall only, yeah.
Sheesh, I'm glad we
Yeah.
cleared that up. But it's a perfectly good room. It was always cold.
Yeah,
But,
So that last section, I think we could leave part of it. It says currently the, whatever they call that building now,
Yeah.
not the old New Windsor Middle School.
I don't know what they call it, the Carroll County Library headquarters.
Yeah,
Does
okay.
it have a name?
well,
Yeah, I think that's what it's called, the library headquarters, right?
That's what we all call it, but
Um,
has been renovated and is used as well, you could say the old school was renovated and is now the Carroll Library headquarters.
Well, that's what it says, so you
Yeah.
could leave that in there. And I think we want to say that there may be meeting space available in the renovated cafeteria, because I think it may be open
Well,
again.
do we want to try and actually like find that out?
Could, somehow.
You know,
But by the time it's printed, it won't necessarily be true.
Your point is very well taken.
We could say, there may be
may or may
space.
not.
May or may not be cheerleaders allowed in
Yeah.
that room.
Yes,
the prior two, paragraphs are being deleted.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we need, plus how completely inaccurate are they now? How many
Yeah.
square feet, and that's all changed, how many
Yeah.
books they have? Doesn't say how
I
many.
heard they had 101,003, so
Yeah.
the number's off.
So instead of saying is being renovated, has been.
Has been.
Right? And we said that consideration part goes,
Yeah,
And you can say the site may offer.
yes, you could just say that, the site may offer public meeting space in the renovated cafeteria.
Depending on the mood they're in.
That's
Works
right.
for me.
Yeah. Well, I think when they were doing some renovations, right?
They
up in
were
the
doing a bunch
county,
of stuff in that
They had
building.
them
the
people
planning
here.
commission, or, permits and inspection, because they were parking, permits and inspection, they were parking their county vehicles down on our carnival grounds for, a month or two
Yeah,
the other year.
but I think they're back in the.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
they-
that's why I
they've
think
been-
maybe that's open now.
Yeah.
But they just maybe haven't told.
Assuming that they're actually still going back to work in the building, which many of them still are not doing, but I'm not bitter.
Senior center.
Senior Center.
There still is not. Maybe that's-
Well,
So, I mean, I guess we need to include these kind of things in it.
I think in this section, and this is just my opinion, the first thing that says there isn't in New Windsor, you could say residents are encouraged to utilize Westminster, and then you come down to the very last paragraph and say other centers in the region are. And you take all the rest of that, how many square feet and kitchens, and there's a spa and 4 bathrooms.
Agree. Agree. Yep.
Change made.
Okay. Parks and Recreation.
Changes to your parks.
So you're just keeping that last, the Westminster senior activities, you're just keeping that paragraph or not?
Oh,
Yes.
I think we're even deleting the first sentence.
Yeah, I think they're
Oh, okay.
redundant, but Emily,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
see that when you type
That-
it up.
that'd be
If you think they're
repeating.
redundant, take one out.
Yep. Okay, we moving on to Parks and
Parks
Recreation?
and Rec.
So, Town Park, Drew, that's really Lions Club Park.
Lions Park.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure what the sign says.
I think it says Lions Park, I'm pretty
Does it?
sure.
Okay.
Is it Lions Club Park or Lions?
I don't know. I just
Years ago, it was like
went and had
Lions
lunch.
It's either Lions Club or Lions.
But I'm pretty sure Lions is at least how it's generally referred to.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how Gary always calls it
Yes.
Lions Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lions Park.
That should be easy enough to ascertain.
Yeah, there's a sign there.
Because you recently redid it, didn't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So that information is still correct in that paragraph, other than the name of the park. So the next one where it talks about another park facility is located on the corner of 31 and 75, that is all correct, except this park is also the site of the annual town Christmas tree lighting ceremony. That needs to go, because we're not doing it there anymore.
Yeah. That's,
And do we want to say although not a tot lot
Thank
park?
you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessary.
Why is
Yeah.
that there? It's like minimum,
It's a park.
it's
Okay.
minimum,
Say
it's
the
marginalizing
yes.
that park.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you have a park, but it's not
But
really
it's
a
not a good
park.
enough park.
yeah.
Well, it's not a kid's park.
Nah.
It's an
It's a
adult park.
passive
Adult,
aggressive
It's an adult park.
Yeah.
in a park.
I thought it was just me who read
It wasn't, I'm going, wait a minute.
Yeah, you have like a frowny face there, although
Yeah.
not a top park.
Yeah.
All right.
But then somebody has to write something glowing about the new
And-
park.
And it does say that about providing recreational facilities for all ages or something, so. Pleasant surroundings.
So what are you looking at? The facility on Water Street?
Well, do you want to put Fountain Park in before you get to the
Yeah, I
tennis
have,
courts?
yeah, I think so. So we can add Fountain Park next. The town's newest park, located at the intersection of 31, 209.
Latest edition.
Yes.
But then that dates,
Well, it's dated.
I mean, that kind of dates the plan. If you do, we got to have something for future plan commissions to go and,
Change, right.
Yeah.
Put in
Yeah.
some annoying stuff so that they can take it out.
yeah. Still say they should.
Park features green space.
Brown space.
A gazebo.
If we can ever figure it out, a mural on Dr. Gotti's wall. But I wouldn't put that in, because I don't know
Chess and
how that's
checkers.
gonna.
Yeah, you can,
And this is where the annual Christmas tree
yeah,
Right.
lighting ceremony.
facility in Water Street, should, 2 lighted tennis courts, should we say pickleball?
Yes?
Marking for pickleball?
Yes?
It's,
Or just say light as tennis/pickleball courts.
yeah.
That way Tom Brady can bring his league here.
Do we have people playing pickleball?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
A lot of mornings, there's, I don't know whether
It's-
from,
The ones in Westminster
Dane.
are jammed.
I have friends talking about pickleball all
Yeah,
the
they-
time, and I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah, they-
really?
I
I
don't-
haven't even seen it. I don't
Or
understand.
I'll come to my office and look out the back window. 4 or 5 mornings a week, there are like 4 tennis courts back behind my office filled with picklers.
no, they.
Picklers, that's what they're called.
they-
That's what I call it.
They did
Scary.
replace the one tennis net because they bring their own, I guess it's a little, it's not as high.
It's not quite as high. I don't
They
know.
set up their own net, but there's usually like a foursome several days a week there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it gets,
It's a thing.
and you hear this, that funny.
Yeah, it's got a little squelch kind of sound to it.
Yeah.
There is no tot lot
I was gonna ask, is there a tot lot there?
That equipment, I think, has been removed years
So
ago.
let's take out
Yes.
that. So
There
it's
is
Are you
got
with us,
tennis
are you with us, Emily?
and basketball.
Yeah, there is a basketball
Yep.
court.
The poor rec council's trying desperately to have a baseball league.
Well, that last sentence needs to come out, primary location for the rec council's baseball league games, because it's not.
But isn't there a tot lot in the Atlee Ridge that we own?
There is there's a small,
It's a small one,
Small
but I
one
mean,
up the
do we
street
want
from
to,
there.
since we mention the 15 acres of open space,
We should, and they also, well, they have the Frisbee too over there.
is that where that is? I'm not,
they have the
That's
disc
one-
golf.
That's part of the 15 acre.
That's down in that.
Oh, is that
walk-
the 15 acres?
That's the 15
Yeah, that's the-
acres.
where the walking.
all along
Oh,
Dickerson
so
Creek,
we could
yes.
even include that in the 15 acre, which has ultimate Frisbee.
and where's does the disc golf get played on
That's
the?
ultimate Frisbee.
That's the same
That's
thing?
ultimate
Okay.
Frisbee, disc golf, yeah, disc golf is what
Uh,
we call it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the little top lot in Atlee Ridge is not listed here, is it? No.
No, we should put that in.
Yeah,
That
just
should be
put,
in
even
there.
if you say it's a small tot lot in the
Yeah.
Atlee Ridge subdivision.
Yeah. And it does get used.
Oh, I'm sure, there's a lot of
Quite-
people
quite
in
a few.
there. And they're not, using campers and parking them on the street.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to make sure that I'm following everything correctly, the Atlee Ridge subdivision, we're adding the disc golf and the tot lot?
Well, the disc golf is down in the,
15
is
acre,
in the butterfly.
in the 15
Butterfly Park.
acres of open space?
Yeah, and it's, doesn't run along, it runs along Dickerson, not Little Pipe Creek.
It's Dickerson?
Dickinson Run.
Dickinson, like Emily.
Dickinson,
Okay.
Dickinson Run.
And then, well, the next paragraph, it's not the new Windsor Middle School fields anymore.
Yeah, I think that whole thing needs to go
That
because
needs to go,
there's
yeah.
no public school grounds.
Yeah.
So we certainly do not want to be encouraging trespass.
And we're not encouraged to go play on their property?
Emily, you're okay with the Atlee Ridge part? You got it then?
I think so, I'm gonna flag it just to make sure that I got it accurate, but I think I did.
Okay, so there's a tot lot in the Atlee Ridge subdivision, and they have a 15 acre part that has the
No.
walking, it should say, it has a walking path.
Yeah, there's 15 acres, which includes a walking path and
And-
disc golf
Yes.
and a butterfly net or whatever the butterfly thing is.
Butterfly park.
Well, they
but
call
like-
it something, they call it like a butterfly preserve or something.
Yeah, I don't know,
Is it worth putting in, or,
I wouldn't,
okay, I don't
I
know
don't know
how.
that structure is still, that little thing is still there or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a structure, not just a bush?
It was, yeah, it was,
Is that just a butterfly bush?
No, it was the Eagle Scout project, right?
Oh.
It was a butterfly.
I don't know, I've never seen it, I've heard of
Hey,
it, but I've
There
never
was
seen
those
it.
butterfly.
It's like a miniature, you ever seen those bat
Yeah.
things they put up, but it was smaller slots
As
for
little slits
butterflies,
that the
yeah.
butterflies go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Butterflies are free.
Yeah,
All right. Public safety?
Oh, this has to have
Oh.
some goosing up here.
Yeah, this needed some. So police protection, the first sentence, it's police protection to the residents and business of the study area is provided by the Carroll County Sheriff's
sheriff's
Office.
office.
Period, right? That's it. And that's what they're called now.
But then, if we go down, do we take out all this stuff about the state police? Where the barracks is, and whoever did this must have like wanted to be an architect.
Would you want to say the,
12,100 square feet.
would you want to say the primary police protection or
I
the,
mean, if you call the state police from here, if there's a crisis, the state police will
Sure.
come.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I think you would say the primary is the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, maybe switch the order of these
Yeah.
two things.
Okay.
And say that, Maryland State Police also, what?
Provide service.
Provide services in this jurisdiction on, an as-needed basis or something like that. But I still don't think we need to know how many square feet there are in their building.
we even need to list the location or just let?
I don't think that's,
It's like the library.
So the sheriff's becomes A, Maryland State Police become B.
The numbers and stuff for the sheriff's office are no longer accurate.
And, yeah, and the state police, there aren't 76 troopers in that barracks anymore. I think there's only like 5 or 6 in the whole county now.
I don't think there's a DARE drug program either.
No, I don't know they have, no, you don't see anything,
Oh, you haven't seen that in a long time.
No, I think they did away with that because it.
because in that, usually
I
part,
believe, last time I read, they said it wasn't effective. It
yeah, and
Didn't seem to make any difference.
that kind of more or less covered like in the health stuff, when they have health class and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So what do we want to say for, like, the Maryland State Police, since they're here? What are we going to just say they're located in
I
Westminster?
would give their location.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yeah.
And then that's it? I mean, we don't really need to
I
have
don't
all
think
I
the
don't think we
resident
need to do a
trooper
whole-
program needs to be brought up, or,
Yeah, because it says this is a primary law enforcement agency for the county, which it's not anymore.
not anymore, no.
Maybe just that first sentence?
That's what I think.
Yeah, and maybe the address located on,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Okay. The rest can go. All right, what do we want to say for the Carroll County Sheriff's Office?
That's more complicated.
Well, don't they provide full service to New Windsor?
They provide whatever service we got.
We hired them, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Do we want to, has anybody looked at the concurrency management plan? It does have that kind of, has language in there about the sheriff's department.
About how many officers you need per person, but that doesn't really play
Yeah.
out. Because we only have half a cop. I mean, he's a fine half, but
Yeah,
that's all we got.
I mean,
So did we just need to say something like the Carroll County Sheriff's Office?
Office
is the
provides
main-
law
primary
enforcement,
law enforcement
yeah,
for the town of
within
New
the town.
Windsor? And then say something like the town of New Windsor shares a deputy with Union Bridge.
Union Bridge. And again, how many people they have and how many sworn and how many civilian and how many detention officers. Don't need all of that.
Still operate the detention center,
Oh, yeah.
courtroom security. So you keep the rest of that paragraph.
So you want to keep that first paragraph? Is that what you're suggesting, Drew?
Just change from concurrent to primary law enforcement, and is generally responsible for the operations. Well, I mean, what do you guys think?
Do we care about the detention center? I mean,
Yeah. I guess it kind of details what their duties and responsibilities are, if that, unless you just want to say, just cut off and say they provide the,
Operate the detention center. I don't know that we need sentences longer than 18 months are served in the state system. What's
Yeah,
that got to do
no.
with the New Windsor master plan?
yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
I mean, I guess the first, just looking at the first paragraph specifically, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem if it stays there.
Yeah, but I don't think we need a lot of the rest
Oh,
of
the
it.
rest of the stuff I had scratched.
So you might want to put in the next paragraph about them being 24 hours and that kind of thing. Jurisdiction throughout the county, and they're a 24/7 operation.
The end of that second paragraph, the town is currently participating in the community deputy program. The service agreement dates to July 1st, 2004.
Now that needs to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we might want to put their address in because we put the police barracks address in.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be built, well, that'll give the next, when they, next time, because aren't they supposed to be building the new sheriff's department headquarters?
I don't think that's nailed down yet. I think the county owns a lot of property right on Greenway, Greenberg, that little street right there.
So are we good with the police?
Did we have something in there about us that New Windsor utilizes, resident deputy? Do we have that in there?
We had said that at the beginning, that we
Yep.
share deputy.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure it's called is it still
I
called?
don't know that
think
they
it's
call it
called
that anymore. Because they called it that as opposed to resident trooper.
Right.
Now that the resident trooper program is essentially defunct, I don't know that they call them. They may still, I just don't know.
I don't recall it being called that now, but.
Not deleting all the statistics for the calls and.
Yep. Just add their address like you did with the
And all the info on the detention center, we're scratching that.
I think so. That has anything to do with our plan.
doesn't really.
So ready for 6?
Yeah, that's all,
Yeah. Yep. So it seems to me that the first 2 paragraphs could go away in there, if we're talking about New Windsor.
yeah.
And then, starting with A, it needs to all be, revised, updated, I say revised, it needs to be updated there.
Is there a need to put all those years in of statistics?
I don't think so. No.
I think the reason that they're in was to show the upward trend of nearly 20%. I don't know why we can't just say there was an upward trend of 20%, or whatever it is now.
That, yeah, I don't, and that, I think should come out with that,
Yeah, whenever that
That
gets compiled in June, you were
yeah.
talking about.
I mean, 2021 was the last it was done, so.
Yeah.
Well, so how about that, where it starts out and talks about the New Windsor Fire District has an estimated population. So I don't know how
How's that
large the district that New Windsor Fire is responsible for, and
They go way outside of it, though. I mean, I've seen them
sure, they're
all over the place.
I
right?
mean, I can get you like the square miles probably, or,
But do we need
does that-
that, or do we say that the town of New Windsor is primarily, or served in, primarily by the New Windsor,
yeah.
fire and hose?
Yeah.
You can say, which also serves outside the jurisdiction, obviously.
Maybe you could just say the New Windsor Fire District encompasses the first due area, or,
It says
Somebody-
34 square miles.
what's that?
It says 34 square miles.
But that would be the same.
Right.
That hasn't changed.
So we could just say that.
Yeah,
Then we don't have to worry about what
Yeah.
the current density per
Yeah.
square mile is, because,
That changes
Yeah.
all the time.
the terminology is first due area, so
which means I'm assuming the 911 call comes in and who gets the
New
call
Windsor,
first?
we would be dispatched. Yeah,
First.
Yes.
And assuming that all of your vehicles were not somewhere else. If all of your vehicles were somewhere else, who would
It
become,
would be, depending if it's down towards Taylorsville.
Yeah,
it's
that
down-
may
Yeah,
go that way.
Winfield, or.
would they then also be called the first due area? Or would New Windsor still be the first due area, unable to report at present or something?
Well, that,
I know this has nothing to do
Yeah,
with the
they-
plan,
they
this is just me.
they dispatch multiple departments,
Okay.
companies. So in the first, like the first alarm, you're gonna have New Windsor, and then like Winfield and Westminster.
Okay, got it.
Or whatever, but, it's whoever they've changed the structure, they've gone to battalion chiefs.
Yeah.
So the commanding officer might be from Mount Airy,
Uh-huh.
Westminster, or that is all evolving
Yeah,
right
there's a
now.
lot shaken in that world.
And I don't know what,
Anyway, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
was just intrigued by how that would work.
and I don't know, would you just want to include the location of the firehouse? I don't know whether that's,
Yeah, I think you should.
It serves here, and other companies also serve here, in
and the
a,
community does, it's,
in a larger,
So
as needed, not PRN, whatever the word would be.
Is everything in that last, in that last paragraph,
About
under
the-
6, under the fire, is that all still correct?
yes, yeah, that's,
We have eight vehicles? or
well,
have
we
more
can
than 8?
accommodate, well, we really do, because we house the county's hazmat.
Well, it doesn't say we have 8 vehicles, it just says we can house them.
Yeah.
Yes, I see that, okay.
So, and I would
And-
think, can we get rid of the word state-of-the-art and just say the facility was dedicated?
Yeah, it may not be state-of-the-art
It's
anymore,
not.
it's 20 years old.
Well, it's,
So it's
yeah,
still pretty
it's
nifty.
17 years old, so may just say the facility was dedicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
that or the, say, the station. That's the,
And we're gonna get rid of that whole chart thing.
Yeah. Is MES still running our water?
Yes. Very costly.
Oh, I know.
I wonder at one point it would be cost efficient to have a town,
We talked about that at our last meeting, and we're nowhere near it.
Yeah.
The amount of people that we would have to hire that have the right credentials and qualifications to run it 24/7. Gary,
Yeah.
we had this exact conversation
Yeah.
the other night, and Gary says we are nowhere near close to, it's expensive,
Yeah.
but we're nowhere near
Yeah.
close if we had to pay for
It's,
it.
and if you had to do it yourself, it's expensive. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
way to get water out of the ground and into the tap without spending a lot of money. Which is why you should turn your water off when you brush your teeth.
So I don't know if all the numbers that we're
Yeah,
gonna
if
see
they're all
in
right,
the
yeah.
water and the sewer stuff is still accurate. So I would think that we'd be best to maybe have Gary.
Defer to Gary and Wayne on that one,
Wayne
yeah.
to update these two sections for us.
Especially about like retaining the existing lagoon. Might want to take that out.
Well, yeah, that definitely go.
The solid waste section that is like almost all about county facilities,
Yes.
you know, I don't quite understand why we have all of that.
hey, there's that Dickinson run, yeah, that, everybody,
Yes.
First paragraph and get rid of everything else, or
Which one are you talking?
solid waste? Or are we still in public sewer? I thought we were,
Yeah, we all moving over to solid waste?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, breaking down what the landfill's divided by and,
because I think only a small percentage is really landfilled, and most of it shipped out.
But it's really not, that's
Is-
not ours.
I can say, what, is this,
Solid waste is provided to residents of the town on a, you know, the town contracts
As-
with private disposal services for residential. Actually, I think some of your businesses even use the same system, which is kind of weird. Most places don't do that. Like, you know, if you're a business, you got to contract your own. But I don't see why you need to have all of, I mean, it's just me, it's my opinion, you know, you should do.
So this section is called community facilities, right? So we're talking, but this document is not something that we would hand to a new resident.
No,
And
it's
so-
here.
So they would say, hey, what do I do with my solid waste?
Right.
Right,
Go to
Dig a hole in the
page
backyard, we
9007.
won't tell.
right.
so, yeah, I mean, is that really, is there anything in here where, you know, services provided, your tax dollar,
I mean, for that matter, we could put that the county landfill also has a gun range. But that, why didn't we put that in here? I mean,
Put it in there.
yeah,
to me, it's not
Long guns
necessary.
and handguns.
Yes, handguns on the other side, I know. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it has the landfills divided into
Very
4
loud.
cells. Who, you know, that's,
Are we suggesting we get rid of everything with the landfill? Get rid of solid waste in and,
Or just put in something as simple as
It's,
solid waste is, you know, the town contracts with private licensed haulers to pick up and remove solid waste to, you know, county or other appropriate licensed facility, something like that.
yeah.
members of the town have access to the Carroll County landfill
Yeah. you can
which is
always take your
located
stuff. You can always take your
for
stuff.
a fee,
Done.
for a fee.
yes.
This is not free. They weigh your car going in and coming out.
Because you don't get the free with your tax bill anymore.
Nope,
do
they
you?
don't do that anymore.
No.
And they paved that whole area now, they put up guardrails, you back
Oh, yeah?
up to the dumpsters, it's nice there now.
I have been there one time. in 30-plus
I mean,
years.
it used to
as
be
far as dumps
ragtag,
go.
you know, it used to be ragtag. You backed up too far, you'd either smash in or go over the edge, now it's all,
Yeah,
it's
I've
all
seen
nice.
trailers that have been hung up.
I was just up there the other day.
You need to get out more, Dave.
Go across that scale,
Ain't trouble is,
$7.
a couple days
I
later,
just
you
don't
got
see
a
any
flat tire.
reason to have all of this fascinating information
I agree.
Right, right,
in your master plan.
right, yeah, that's,
Yep.
Especially a chart.
Yeah,
The amount of waste we need.
Yeah, we had 2 pages of it right here.
Emily, can you do a pie chart, an exploding pie chart with that information?
If you really want it, it's represented by a bar graph. but-
Yeah.
Analysis of community needs.
That's, hey, if you are putting anything in for solid waste, would you want to say that the town offers bulk trash or not? Or weren't we mentioning anything about solid waste, or just
No, we
what you had
weren't,
said?
we were gonna mention it,
Yeah.
you know, the minor things. We could put in there
Put it in there.
that twice a year, the
Yeah.
town offers its
I mean,
residents.
it's not a weekly occurrence.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You on that, Emily? Twice a year, the town offers the residents bulk trash.
Removal. Or pickup.
Well, it's not pickup, I don't want to say pickup.
I was gonna say, you guys don't say pickup, but
Pick up anymore,
we come down and drop it off.
drop off. There you
Oh,
go.
remember when I first started that, people were putting out whole living rooms.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, it was, the town had the little dump truck, and they would get one living room suit, and then they had to go dump it.
Oh, yeah.
They would only get a couple streets done in a day.
I put out two love seats once back in the day, and all the neighborhood kids came and jumped all over it and had a good time and went to bed, came out the next morning, it was gone.
Oh, yeah. Good
Yeah,
stuff
half the
disappeared.
time, that's what happens, is people just take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Which
was
is
gone.
even better.
I felt bad, the kids, like, the story was a lot better before they jumped all over it. Anyway, okay.
Public schools.
I would,
Goes on
I would remove that about projections up here, that, I don't,
Yeah, I would,
that, you're getting into, I don't know where they are on that, because that's kind of,
So just stop after facility needs?
has its own master facilities,
Yeah,
its own master plan.
I think that makes sense.
And as a result of, we do not address specific facility needs, so wouldn't venture into anything beyond
Yeah.
that.
Fair enough. So the public library, why is that,
Again.
here we go.
Yeah.
I was
here
just
we
trying
go
to think
again.
why we would even,
Why is that here?
well, it's an analysis of community needs. do we,
But it's not, it's,
We, you
But
know,
it's our community that we're trying to analyze, not
Yeah.
Westminster's, or, I mean, you could put in there that the town of New Windsor has access to the public library in Westminster, Tawnytown, and
Thingsburg.
Mount Airy.
has
And
there,
if they
All the way
so
to Hampstead,
choose.
yeah, has
I
that,
mean, but why?
that issue has never been brought up by any residents about a public library
Yeah.
and,
Well, I won't say never, you know,
well, it's, the demographic doesn't support anything
yeah.
more than a bookmobile-sized room out here, and then no matter what you did, people would say that they had the wrong books. But like, construction of the Finksburg branch might relieve overcrowding
yeah.
at the,
Yeah, that's,
no, that the Finksburg branch is now 10 years old.
yeah, it's a little absurd.
Yeah,
how do we handle this, Michelle, in why, in the analysis of community needs, okay, under public library?
Well, there isn't a big crunch to get more, I'm sorry, get more library here, you know.
Right.
I don't see people knocking on the door every third Wednesday or whatever to do that, so.
I would just say something like the Carroll County Public Library offers branches in other jurisdictions for the town of New Windsor to access,
well,
if we have to put something
but
in.
tell you the truth, I mean, it's not really a need.
That's what I was just
Yeah,
gonna say.
It's not really,
You don't have a senior center,
Nope.
and does a town of 1,400 people ever gonna get a senior center? No. There's other ones that are close.
because
And
most,
this is all worried about, there's too many old folks in Westminster, so you gotta keep a close watch on them. It's just weird, it's all just kinda weird. And I don't know.
So it's
the-
our plan
The
to-
town
to
lacks a
remove them?
community park. Well, do you now lack a community park?
No.
What does a community park mean?
We have several parks within our community.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have
and
Disney World,
I-
but you've got some nice little parks.
I could say, I don't know, at that time, whether the rec council, the West Carroll Rec Council at the time this was drawn, were they really certainly more active than they are now, because right now they can't get anybody
They're
to,
pretty much, they're borderline defunct now.
yeah. So the
So we plan on scratching library?
I don't know, let's look, just for a minute though, look at the whole section. Senior center, the language in the senior centers is that Westminster could get too crowded. You might need a community park. They might need a bigger detention center. You're good with your fire company. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know what purpose this section serves. I really don't. Because it is way more focused on Carroll
Everything
County and Westminster than it is on you.
Not on New Windsor, it's everything outside,
And
everything in the county that can support our town, which,
is, I suppose, of some interest, but I don't know that it really is, I don't know how you fix it to have it make sense. Do you really need to talk about the expansion of the detention center to double the amount of beds needed? And you probably, they did it, they've done it a couple of times.
Yeah, I think you're getting out of your area of expertise.
My area of expertise, that's for sure.
Trying to evaluate things here that I don't think you have the, to do that.
I mean,
Now
currently
you-
the detention center isn't overcrowded, because there for quite a while, they were housing, I guess, immigration and.
Yeah.
It's true.
But now, because
They've moved.
with my wife working there, the census is down like in the low
I didn't
200s.
realize that she worked there. A good friend of
She's
mine used to work there. I won't say
she's
what
a
name
nurse.
it is, just in case she doesn't
But she's
like it.
retired, she works a little bit, but,
But, so, maybe if you think you need a park, you're talking about the Silver Spring Park, Sulphur
Sulphur
Spring Park.
Spring.
Maybe you put in that, a larger park with additional sporting facilities so that
Utility
Neil
fields.
can get his,
Water,
no, his baseball team there, who are those people? The Cal Ripken people he's always talking to, or about.
Oh, the Ironbirds he's trying to get here?
No.
Not
they-
the Ironbirds.
What?
The Cal Ripken Foundation, he was talking with them to put in a artificial turf field
Oh.
down in the lagoon thing, and was working on
He
that.
is a man of limitless optimism.
Well, trust me, Cal's got money. So,
So they are looking at the possibility of looking at other sources for water, and not being so dependent on that one. So maybe you put in there, they're looking at
the Rups Spring.
considering, even if we don't put
Meadow.
details in it, but additional water supply sources, perhaps closer to town, so that we don't have 4 miles of 100-year-old pipe we worry about. Maybe you put something like that in for a need, but
That,
you don't need a new detention center.
so library, kind of getting back,
Yeah, I think you look at it globally before you figure out what you're gonna take out and put in. Look at all of
yeah.
them. That's just my opinion.
Maybe I could start here.
You ready to stop for the night?
Just
It is 8 o'clock.
time.
I mean, it
Yeah,
is.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's a good place that's a good place to.
And then, read over those
start.
things, and you guys who make the decisions, think
Yeah.
about of how you want to approach the topic.
of the analysis of community needs.
So we're stopping on page 98,
98.
analysis
Analysis.
of needs.
Any-
Go back to his agenda.
Okay, so, there's Monday, March the 27th,
Oh, I missed it. Thank you, sir.
the next meeting. That
Yes,
doesn't interfere with any
March 27th, yes.
holidays or anything.
well, sure, March 27th.
Yeah,
It's a special
Yeah.
holiday.
it's a Monday.
So we got, what's the date of the next meeting?
It'll be March the 27th, 6 PM. Anything else?
No, he had some announcements on there, but
Uh,
that's just
Oh, okay,
number 5 there.
yeah, bingo or weekly Tuesday night bingo. Carnival will be May 23rd to the 27th. Musical in the main,
October
Neil say October the 7th?
7th, yep.
Anybody else have any activities or any events coming up?
May 20, that's early for the fair, isn't it, for the carnival?
Yeah, it was, we couldn't, the soon, trying to line up a ride concession. So that was, we'll be the first one in the county this year. See how it goes.
Is that a good thing to be first or not?
Well, it is what it is.
Well, yeah.
It's pretty early in the year.
The weather,
Yeah. Kids are still in school.
yeah, that's the big thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But nothing else, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjournment.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?